Holy Gospel according to Matthew. Glory to you, O Lord. Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. He fasted 40 days and 40 nights, and afterwards he was famished. The tempter came and said to him, "If you are the Son of God, command these stones to become loaves of bread." But he answered, "It is written, one does not live by bread alone, but by every word that comes from the mouth of God." Then the devil took him to the holy city and placed him on the pinnacle of the temple, saying to him, "If you are the Son of God, throw yourself down, for it is written, he will command his angels concerning you, and on their hands they will bear you up, so that you will not dash your foot against a stone." Jesus said to him, "Again it is written, do not put the Lord your God to the test." Again the devil took him to a very high mountain and showed him all the kingdoms of the world and their splendor. And he said to them, "All these I will give you, if you will fall down and worship me." Jesus said to him, "Away with you, Satan, for it is written, worship the Lord your God and serve only him." Then the devil left him, and suddenly angels came and waited on him. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. It had to be one of the most difficult and dangerous journeys I ever made. In hindsight, I probably should have just canceled. In the winter of 2017, I was in the middle of my year-long seminary internship in Omaha, Nebraska. And in February of that year, just before Lent, I decided to sign up for a spiritual retreat hosted by the Nebraska Synod. Now, ordinarily, the drive from Omaha to Grand Island is not a particularly long or difficult one, consisting mostly of a trip straight down I-80 and about 2 hours or so long. That particular weekend, however, snow was forecasted, but I'm from the Midwest. I know how to drive in the snow, no big deal. Well, the snowstorm was so bad, in fact, that it shut down the interstates, and all traffic was rerouted to a rural country highway with one lane in each direction. The cars that were out were minimal, since most people, not me, had the good sense to stay home. Despite my excruciatingly slow speed and white-knuckle grip on the steering wheel, it felt like my 95 Jeep Cherokee with two-wheel drive was competing, and poorly so, in a sort of figure skating competition. At one point, my vehicle even started sliding into the lane of oncoming traffic, where, of course, I spotted none other than the bright headlights of a semi-truck through the snowy horizon. I swore I was about to meet Jesus, and my spiritual retreats was about to get a lot more real and permanent. Journeys are not always comfortable. They're certainly not without their hiccups or road bumps or whiteouts, blizzard conditions. Every year on this first Sunday in Lent, Jesus' own journey in the wilderness stands at the beginning of our journey through the season of Lenten wilderness. I've always appreciated this story because it helps to remind us that Jesus was fully human. Sometimes I think we forget that part, and we lose sight of what exactly that means because we know the bigger picture, and we know the rest of the story. But that doesn't change the fact that Jesus was still 100% fully human. Here, in the wilderness, in the prelude to his public ministry in Matthew's gospel, Jesus' own journey was just beginning, and I have to wonder if he thought it was also going to end right then and there. Hungry, alone, scared, lost, questioning his purpose. Jesus' journey was one of struggle. And there's comfort in that for me. There's great comfort in that for me because it's reassuring to know that we are not alone when our own journeys take unpredictable detours or when we wind up aimlessly lost in the wilderness just because Jesus has been there too. Journeys are often unpredictable, even scary at times. When I graduated from high school and packed up my entire life and everything I had ever known to move from what had been home in Michigan to the suburbs of Chicago for college, I thought I knew where that journey would lead. I was going to graduate and go back to a Lutheran high school somewhere to teach English. Well, needless to say, that's not how the journey wound up. There were a few hiccups along the way, to put it mildly. And in the years following graduation, I felt more than a little lost. Even so, for as lost and aimless as I felt in those last waning months of college and into my newly graduated life, I eventually wound up where I am today. Every meandering detour, every road bump, every seeming dead end, all led me on a journey that helped me reimagine what Christianity could be, and that I could live my fully authentic self at the same time. My journey also reawakened my call to pastoral ministry and led me to congregations in the suburbs of Milwaukee and Chicago. And with everything I've experienced so far, I have to trust that there is still more to my journey. For all that has been, the ups and the downs and the in-betweens, I wouldn't trade any of it because it is all a part of who I am and where I am today. Now, I want to be perfectly clear as a bit of a sidebar that that's not to say that everything happens for a reason, because I don't believe that to be true for 1 second. But I do believe that purpose can be found and that meaning can be made in everything that happens. It's a crucial distinction. In the ups and downs and detours of our journeys, there is purpose and meaning. The fully human Jesus struggled mightily in his wilderness temptations. But at the end of his journey, and even at its lowest points, he knew somehow, despite what had to feel like all evidence to the contrary, God still was with him. In his most intense moments of his wilderness journey, Jesus drew from the well of his faith and his spiritual ancestors. He drew strength from those resources, and they in turn enabled him to forge ahead. And of course, we know that wilderness journey was only the beginning of Jesus' story. When I did finally arrive in Grand Island, both Jeep Cherokee and my own life intact, although perhaps with a bit of a bruised ego, I think the retreat facilitators were just as surprised as I was, since so many others who had previously registered were wise enough to cancel. But I was stubborn, along with the few others who braved the snowy weather with me. And the spiritual renewal that I experienced and the resources that I gleaned during that short overnight retreat, yes, all of this was for just not even 2 days. But the spiritual renewal and the resources that I gleaned from that time have given me a deep reservoir that I have drawn from many times since. That's not to say that you should foolishly risk your life driving through a snowstorm, but it does remind us that difficult journeys, literal or otherwise, can and do often arrive at grace-filled destinations. A South African freedom song that comes out of the anti-apartheid movement puts it this way: "Come walk with us, the journey is long. Come walk with us, the journey is long." Friends, we stand on the cusp of another Lenten journey. Some of you may have taken on more intentional spiritual practices as a part of this season. Others of you may have given up some things in order to make room for others. However you move through these 40 days, do so in a way that is meaningful and life-giving for you, to give you strength for the journey, through the wilderness of Lent, to the sorrow of the garden, to the anguish of the cross, to the uncertainty of the empty tomb, and ultimately, to the joy of the resurrection and new life, of God's decisive victory over all of the forces that seek to deny us of God's love. The journey is long, but we walk together. Our journey is not over. My journey is not over. Your journey is not over. As you look ahead to the future, perhaps with sadness, maybe fear or uncertainty, first, look back at where you have been. Draw strength from those moments. Remember God's faithfulness. Remember the faithfulness of God made known in the community of the people of God. Let those things fill you up. And then turn back around and move forward boldly and bravely and hopefully into the future. Draw from your well when you need it, and know that that well will never run dry, because God's faithfulness is never ending, and God's mercies are surely new every morning. The journey is long, but we are on the way together with a God who has been there too, and who is with us always.